And now it is time to kind of attend to our next keynote, which will be coming from our secondary sponsor of the day, Frantic. And from Frantic, we have designer Kaisa Ruotsalainen, who will be talking about this kind of a combination of qualitative and quantitative data and what it means for her. Thank you and welcome, Kaisa.
Thanks, Lassi. Yeah, hi. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming. My name is Kaisa Ruotsalainen, and I come from Frantic. And to me, augmented creativity means co-creation with customers and other stakeholders. And this is what I use in my design practice, in addition to quantitative and qualitative data, to inspire my design. So, my subject today is, can you innovate by asking the customer? I will walk you through the subject by first going quickly through why I believe we should involve the customer. Then I'll have a look at the mindset we should possess. And then we see the framework I have for you. And then we'll sum it up with some key findings and takeaways. So, let's get started. In business today, we have been proved of the importance of involving the customer to our product design processes. More and more companies are trying to be customer value driven after the big giants have shown us how beneficial it is. Businesses gather user feedback and do user testing before the releases. And yes, sometimes you don't even have to go to ask for the feedback, because you can look at the data and see how people behave on your site and when using your product. And hopefully, you are measuring their behavior against your goals and KPIs. But how about involving the customers when you are designing something that's new? Because just merely looking at feedback on existing solutions, how can that inspire you to do something that has never existed? Still, in today's complex world, one designer's or even product team's vision doesn't take you very far. We need customer involvement to understand holistically what are the people we are designing for and with after, what creates them value, so that our innovation gets adapted and spreads. So, if something does not yet exist, how can you grasp that? And how can you ask your customers to imagine something like that? So let's look at the mindset. Almost all of you have probably heard this quote, which was told to belong to Henry Ford, even though later on it was proved it's something that he has never said. But anyway, people who don't want to involve customers to their innovation process still use that. The quote goes of Henry Ford's, "If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses." But to me, it's interesting actually, because if you think of this quote and look at it, it reveals a mindset towards user involvement where involving the user is seen like this. Ask the people and then deliver the solutions strictly by what they said. Though treating user involvement like this really underestimates both you and the user. So you as a designer as well. Because what you are really after when asking from customer is not the solutions themselves, but it's something more. It's understanding. Understanding people's world and the needs that establish in their everyday life. Understanding their obstacles and the potential that lies in there. But understanding something is actually quite a big thing, because it means we need to learn. So trying to learn is the mindset we should strive for. But how to learn about other people's experiences, their motivations, their aspirations, their dislikes, or what they dream about and what they long for? We can and we should look at the data on our customers' behavior. But to get an understanding on their everyday, what is meaningful for them, and to get truly affected and inspired by that, the data alone is not enough. Because to understand experience is experiential. So what it means we need to go out there, we need to leave our comfortable design agencies or corporate offices and go there to meet the people we are designing for and with. And then let those encounters to inspire us, to get us past our assumptions and biases, and give us information we would miss by merely looking at things from our perspective. So the attitude we will utilize here is really more of an explorer rather than an expert. We need to unlearn and be like a beginner. So in practice then, how do we go after the understanding of another person's behavior and experience? The good news is we already have all the assets to understand the experience, because we are people that experience things. That way we can resonate with that other person. Sanders and Innovate introduced this picture already back in 1999 on how to access people's experiences and build resonance with them to drive design decisions. It's a triangle of say, do, and make, which depict users' activities in the process. The first one, say, gives us the most explicit information. We ask and then we listen to people telling about their experiences, their needs, and the context that we are designing. This reveals us what people say and what they think. There are methods that go under qualitative, and some you can also quantify. But the most important thing here is that you need to become a good listener. So to get this right, you can adapt techniques like 5 whys, for example. And briefly put, the secret sauce is in the follow-up questions. Yeah, and also what helps in becoming a good listener in this state, you should do some background research and map out what kind of information you are lacking when going there, and then plan your interview questions against that. So get familiar with the context and get the data of the usage of current solutions. The next level, or perspective to experience, is do. It is when we go and observe how people use products, how they behave, when they go about their everyday. Observing is important because it reveals usually another story than when people are telling stuff. Sometimes even a contradictory one. So we can shadow people in the context of use. We can make them use the product, or we can hand them a prototype and ask them to give feedback about that. So the prototype kind of comes our way to the dialogue. In this state, keep the listener attitude as well. And do not start defending or explaining yourself in any way. Just listen carefully and try to learn. I usually never do proto interviews alone, but have a fellow designer with me, so it's easier to stay neutral. Yeah. And the last perspective to experience is make. This is when we do activities where both the designer and the customer can get creative together. Also, stakeholders sometimes. We can, for example, draw journey maps together or scenarios, or we can give a customer a magic thing and ask them to act out like how that would help them to accomplish what they need to accomplish in their life that moment. Or we can do Lego serious playing and build things. Or we can play design games which can combine all of the above mentioned things. These techniques were established to design practice because they are good to getting the insight of the more tacit and latent needs that are hard to express by only words. They invite customers to play and to be creative and kind of to let go of their restrictions that are from their status or existing hierarchies, or restrictions of time and space, or restrictions of current solutions. They get everyone in the room to be creative and just play with it. And when co-designing solutions, the solutions can come out from the customers as well as from the designers. But what is important here is not that who does it come from, but that we again understand what the people are after and can we give them solutions that help them to accomplish that. So now we have all the perspectives that we can go about the experience. And yes, you can mix all these different methods and come up with new ones as well, as long as it's according to your research goals. And one thing to remember is that it's a continuous process. Customers' needs evolve, and when your product comes to the picture, it can also change some of the behavior and dynamics of their everyday. So you need to keep that dialogue and keep exploring and making together. So the takeaways. Use customer involvement to create true customer value. Explore and learn to understand. Use all the perspective to experience, which are say, do, and make. And involve the customer as a continuous process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kaisa, for coming. Oops, excellent work. I think this kind of very well complements the stuff that Minna was talking earlier about the kind of different nature of data. It all doesn't have to be technologically mediated, but there's very variable levels of data. Would the audience like to comment or make any questions for Kaisa? I don't see any hands going up, but I'll always have one question in reserve, which in this case is that if you think about the say, do, and make kind of triangle, which part of them is kind of the most precious to you? Which kind of data collection do you enjoy the most?
I really feel that you need to have all of them in place. And yeah, I like co-creation because then you can have them all in the place at the same time. At the time, I'm usually most experimenting with prototyping. And with prototyping, you can also like include elements from the make tools because you give the if it's like a conceptual proto, for example, you usually have some things that you have like done and which are something that user can do there. But then there might be some elements that you haven't yet kind of designed for them, and then you go asking like, well, what would you like there to be? For example, there's a menu item, and you want to know like what the customer expects to get from there, or what they want to get from the product. So I really like that.
Yeah, I think for a lot of designers probably share the feeling, but how do you then, like final comment is that, how do you feel about justifying the kind of effort that goes into making things with customers? I think the kind of other parts of research are a little bit more cost effective, but kind of bringing people together and working with them is not, it's not kind of an easy thing to arrange, or how do you find it?
Yeah, I feel a bit contradictory because sometimes it doesn't have to be that like fancy and doesn't need to have that much effort to bring people together. Like just go out there and like just grasp people from hand and like, hey, can you do this thing with me? or would you look at this prototype or whatever. It doesn't have to be always like, yeah, we need to arrange like recruitment process for 200 persons to get past our screener and then they come to our thing. Or so.
Like an MVP of a customer engagement or co-creation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
any further comments there? If not, let's all thank Kaisa for coming on stage. Thank you, Kaisa.
Thank you.